It's January 2015, and we, David and Brian, are in South Africa with our friend Hazel. In 2 weeks we'll be joining a cruise ship to take us from Cape Town back to Portsmouth, with many stops on the way, a journey of 5 weeks. But first, we've a week to enjoy Cape Town, and then head east as far as Knysna.
Welcome to Cape Town. Let's see you smiling. Put on your dancing shoes. Cape Town welcomes you. Welcome to Cape Town. Enjoy the music. Come on, let's get some fun. Cape Town #1. The
Victoria and Alfred waterfront, the V&A, is a very popular spot for locals and tourists alike. There are plenty of passenger boats and pleasure boats, but it's still a working harbour here, and about 60% of it is occupied by the local fishing industry. There's always something going on here. There are vast shopping malls with 450 shops selling absolutely everything, and more than 80 restaurants where you can enjoy coffee and a snack, a cold beer, or sample some fine dining. And with the sun shining, the buskers playing, and the superb views of Table Mountain, it's very easy to while away many hours here, to just relax and watch the world go by. Today we're sitting outside Den Anker, a Belgian restaurant overlooking the basin here. We're about to meet Claire Stewart-Wynne. We last saw her in Cape Town 10 years ago. Claire's mother, Pam Stewart, once worked for David at his shop in Ilfracombe.
Yeah.
All the ones you can say, that's really good, but
Yes.
you know, there's a difference.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
But it's about people.
And
It's
you
about
yeah,
people's
exactly.
skills,
And you
isn't
can
it?
treat one way and it's the wrong way.
Yeah.
And you get nothing.
Yeah.
You treat one the other way and they'll do it.
That's
I'm
right.
afraid that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Let me do my mummy.
Well, I think we've got 2 days in here.
And this is where we're staying, Blackheath Lodge at Sea Point. We stayed here 10 years ago, but it has new owners now, and they've done a tremendous amount of work on it. The whole pool area has been decluttered and a lot of bushes cut down. The bedroom we were in last time, just at the top of the stairs there, is now the bar, which did feel a bit strange sometimes. And although there are some new faces working here, we did remember this lady from last time.
Morning.
Okay, it's confession time. Most of the film of Cape Town that you've seen up to now was not recorded at the beginning of the holiday, because after just 2 days we lost the camcorder. We left it in the back of a taxi, and even though we found the taxi and driver about an hour later, he, of course, denied all knowledge of it. There was nothing we could do but sulk for a few days until we felt like buying a new one. And by that time, we'd been over to Robben Island, the offshore island where Nelson Mandela and many of his contemporaries were imprisoned. After an early morning visit to the police station to record the camera as missing, we drove to Stellenbosch and Franschhoek. It was very hot inland, and we spent the time going into souvenir and craft shops to see if Hazel could find a springbok skin shoulder bag. The next day we did a longer trip down to the Cape of Good Hope and Cape Point. The cliffs tower over 200 metres above the sea and provide amazing views all round. And we were able to have lunch there in the shade overlooking False Bay. On the way back we went via Simonstown and stopped at Boulders to see the colony of African penguins. With the weather good and no cloud the next morning, it seemed the perfect time to take the gondola ride to the top of Table Mountain.
When I look to my left, when I look to my right, when I look to my front, when I look to my back, when I look to my left, when I look to my right, when I look to my front, when I look to my back.
Below Table Mountain is Camps Bay with its beautiful beach, and we found a nice spot to sit outside and have some lunch. And although the beach may be magnificent, the seawater is very cold as it sweeps up from the Antarctic. And this was where we met Claire, actually for the first time this holiday at a wonderful and rather expensive restaurant called the Roundhouse, where we enjoyed a drink first in the garden to watch the sun go down. Another day took us to Kirstenbosch Gardens. There wasn't a lot of colour there at this time of year, but still worth visiting. Guinea fowl and their chicks were scuttling all over the place. And bearing in mind that this is Africa, and Hazel was always on the lookout for wild animals, we spotted her chasing a tortoise across the grass. Then it was back to Cape Town for our last evening, and we went for a meal at Richard's just down the road from us. And the next morning we said our goodbyes at Blackheath Lodge before hitting the road and setting off for Cape Agulhas.
Goodness and mercy shall follow me all of the days of my life. Goodness and mercy shall follow me all of the days of my life. Kamba marimba, Kamba marimba.
Cape Agulhas is the southernmost tip of the African continent. I always understood from my school days that the Cape of Good Hope was the southernmost point, but no, this is where the two great oceans, the Indian and the Atlantic, meet.
I can't see what I'm filming.
And here's the actual point, with a marker indicating the official divide between the two oceans. Well, thousands of tourists have stood behind this marker to say that we was here, and Hazel and David didn't see why they shouldn't do the same. And this is our home for the next 2 nights, the Agulhas Country Lodge. We had 2 identical rooms at the front, looking out across the sea.
Time is like an ocean, singular but broken, and we are wooden pegs on a board. Sudden like a rainstorm, a voice it pours from heaven. Is this your final welcome home? Wamkele, 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 kile, wamkele, wamkele for sure. Wamkele, 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 kile, wamkele, wamkele for sure.
The next day we set out across the dirt road that leads to Knysna. This is a small fishing community which has now become a tourist destination. The Knysna Hotel has pole position here, overlooking the ocean, and can be full in the whale watching season. The old village itself, with its thatched, lime-washed buildings, is unspoiled, and all of it's been declared a national monument.
With one question burning my direction, if I had a choice, which way would I go? Wamkele, 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 kile, wamkele, wamkele for sure. 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 Wamkele, 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 kile, wamkele, wamkele for sure.
On the way back, we stopped to look at an interesting yucca or aloe plant. We're not sure what it was, but the birds were very attracted to it. In Agulhas itself, we spotted a sign to the beach car park and went off to investigate. We found a lovely boardwalk along to a small harbour and the Pelican's Cafe, where we didn't see a pelican. Saturday morning, and we're on our way again, this time to our furthest destination point, Knysna. On the way we stopped for petrol at Riversdale, where we found a place that had been converted from an old jail into a cafe. And here we are at the waterfront lodge, Knysna, with our rooms overlooking the garden and lagoon. There always seem to be guinea fowl around the garden, and today they're joined by some sacred ibis. Sunday morning, and we're off to the Knysna Elephant Park. This was the first place in South Africa to house and care for orphaned elephants. They include animals that have been relocated, orphaned calves, those rescued from culls, and even ex-circus elephants. Now, once they heard us coming, they rushed over to the feeding area to meet us.
I did it last time.
We were each given small buckets filled with lots of chopped fruit, and we fed them by hand. Hazel fed a few, but wasn't really sure if she enjoyed it. And one of the animals sneezed over Brian. His shorts, socks and trainers were spotted with elephant snot.
Yes.
From there we drove down to Plettenberg Bay. With huge sandy beaches each side of it, there's a promontory on which a new hotel has been built, the Beacon Island Hotel. On the advice of Gavin, the owner of Waterfront Lodge, we spent the afternoon at Taniqua, a wildlife awareness and rehabilitation centre. Its aim is to nurse wild animals back to health and then to release them, if they can, back into the wild. They have leopards, cheetahs, serval, caracal and other wild cats in their care. And whilst some of them are in large enclosures, it certainly isn't a zoo. With other people we joined in a walking tour, and we walked around and even in some of the enclosures. Not this one though. Although the leopard seemed unconcerned by our presence, it would have been a very different story if we were on his side of the wire. We were allowed inside with the servals. They're used to people being around them, and as long as we remembered that they were wild cats and not pets, then they would ignore us. In one of the largest enclosures were 2 cheetahs. We were a little wary as we entered the gate to join them, and were given strict instructions about not turning our backs on them, not moving suddenly, and staying completely still if they approached us.
So it's a brother and sister, which they are 6.5 years of age. So they were raised together. As I said, in Cat Kingdom, they don't breed in that manner when you raise them together. So they will not breed these two. We didn't mute them. We leave them because obviously their gene pool is very poor.
And here, extremely difficult to film, was a pair of orphaned lion cubs tucked away deep inside a bush and very sleepy. The following morning we went to the Knysna waterfront, where Hazel was still on the hunt for her springbok shoulder bag and cushion covers. Back at Blackheath Lodge, owner Anthony had found some for her, but she still needed to compare.
But you're filming now. No. No.
A short drive in the afternoon took us up to the Heads, the dramatic sea cliffs that guard the entrance to the lagoon. The Heads overlook the whole of the lagoon and Knysna itself, with the almost vertical cliffs looking down to the sea surging round the rocks below. Hazel was not too happy on the wooden platforms, but with a little help she walked round them all and enjoyed the view, we think. On the Tuesday we set off over the mountains to Outdshoorn and the Highgate ostrich farm. We had to wait half an hour or so and sat under a huge pepper tree with a cup of coffee. And this, believe it or not, is a sort of chariot for racing and intended to be pulled by 4 ostriches. It never really worked. In a minute you'll see our tour guide called Nanian, and he was camper than Christmas, walked with a wiggle and had his hair back in a scrunchie. He took us to the incubators, the hatchery, and because we were all a gorgeous group of beautiful people, he took us to see some of the ostrich chicks just a few weeks old.
Oh, are you taking a photo? Hello, sweetie. Hello.
Are you guys here?
Kit.
Now, 30 grams of all male feathers Uncle Janef used to make this feather duster for all ladies to take back to their countries, and you know what, to go and do the cleaning around, and your dust is going to stay inside because there are no oily glands. Yes. Okay, yeah, we have it. Just send it around to the other ladies and you will be looking snazzy. Did you feel how warm it is? Okay, now, please just take note, all of the eggs that you see right in front of you, this was all unfertilized eggs. Eggs with no babies inside.
We were taken outside to meet some adult ostriches, close up, and given the chance to feed them by hand. And don't be fooled by the gorgeous eyelashes on these birds. They can be really vicious and nasty.
You see how greedy these birds are? They are looking for some jewelry. Okay. Who wants a neck massage done by these birds? Anyone? A volunteer? Any volunteer for a neck massage? There you have a male coming in. A neck massage done by ostriches.
At our next destination, we gathered under a huge pepper tree, from where we were to walk to the ostrich riding area. At first, there was a chance just to sit on an ostrich.
I will ask the guys that are not going to do the riding. Venezuela, you are going to do the riding. England is going to do the riding. Germany is going to do the riding. Where's the males? France, don't you want to ride the bird? Are you going to try?
Hazel was secretly itching to sit on one of these birds, and it didn't take too much to persuade her. Mind you, we did say that she'd probably be itching a lot more afterwards.
Legs together to the front, rock it together, perfect. Hold on tight. You hold on tight. Now we go! Go! So Ferrari is your winner, followed by BMW.
Then it was back to Knysna and our last evening at Waterfront Lodge, where we watched the guinea fowl crawling all over the place and enjoyed the lagoon view for the last time. Next, we were at Swellendam. We were staying 2 nights at, and I still have trouble with this name, the Skåne Orte Country House Hotel. Pronounced correctly or not, Skåne Orte means beautiful place, and indeed it was. But it's also inland and very hot there, about 35 degrees centigrade. The Bontebok National Park is only a short drive from Swellendam. Unfortunately, we saw very few animals. There were a few Bontebok around the reception area when we arrived, and we did see others later near a picnic area. At one point we spotted another sort of bok, but had no idea what it was. There's a herd there of 8 of the endangered Cape Mountain zebra, but we didn't see them at all. A short walk took us down to the pool formed by the Breed River. Again, it was very hot there, but also incredibly peaceful and quiet, and today we had the place almost to ourselves. Well, this wonderful old manor house was our home for 2 nights. It was built in the mid-1700s, but in spite of many changes in the Victorian era, and also more recently, it still manages to keep its original charm. And now, it's our last day on the road. We're on our way back to Cape Town, where we'll be joining the cruise ship Voyager to take us back to Portsmouth. But we have time to make one more stop on the way, to Hermanus, the main whale-watching centre in the season, and it was a great relief here to enjoy the fresh air and the sea breeze.